Hey folks, I'm Matt, and welcome to the Good Trouble Show. Following Thursday night's train wreck of a presidential debate, politics is on everyone's mind, so who better to return to the show than journalist Matt Laslo to discuss the latest news in Washington, D.C. regarding the UAP issue. But first, please hit the subscribe and thumbs up buttons on YouTube, leave a comment, and let us know what you think about this episode. You can also find us on X at Good Trouble Show, otherwise known as Twitter, and everywhere else as The Good Trouble Show. You can also find us wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Just search for The Good Trouble Show with Matt Ford. And as always, we need your help keeping the lights on. You can become a Patreon member of The Good Trouble Show by going to www.patreon.com/The Good Trouble Show and sign up for just the price of a coffee and you can support our work. Finally, Super Chats are open on YouTube, another great way to support the show. I want to thank our Patreon and YouTube members, our chat moderators who volunteered their time, and all of you who are watching. Thank you for the generosity of your time. Now, we have a special show for you tomorrow. We have Dr. Stephen Brown, PhD, who will join us to discuss the Nazca mummies. So in real time, Dr. Brown is going to walk us through the 3D CAT scan images of the different bodies. It's pretty crazy. He gave me a private briefing on them a few days ago, and I must say that these things they don't appear faked to me, I'd have to say. And we're going to announce when the show is. We're not quite sure yet. It'll be sometime tomorrow. But if you follow us on X or on Twitter, probably an hour or two after the show is when we will announce that show, and we'll put a link to it as well. And again, on Twitter or X, I keep calling it Twitter. It's at Good Trouble Show. It's going to be great. Also, a chance for kind of everyone here watching to make a difference. So, as everyone knows, I'm the director of strategy for the UAP Disclosure Fund, and we currently have a petition. We are asking everyone that is for UAP transparency to sign it. It's free. You don't need to donate anything. So all you got to do is go to your web browser, type in www.uapdisclosurefund.org, sign the petition. It doesn't cost anything, and what it does is this petition sends a message to Senator Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds saying, "Hey, we're really behind you in doing this Schumer 2.0 thing, another iteration, or hopefully an improved version of the original UAP Disclosure Act." And funny enough, I've asked Mick West on Twitter several times if he's going to sign it, and he keeps dancing around the subject. I keep telling him, it's like, what do you have to lose? All you're doing is signing a petition advocating for UAP transparency and whistleblowers. And yeah, well, as I always say, these debunkers, they're more interested in their kind of a debunking religion than getting to the truth. Anyway, today's guest has written stories for Vice, Rolling Stone, Wired, and the Daily Beast, covering the political beat in Washington since 2006. He shows no sign of keeling over, unlike our current president who didn't look too good at the debate. Please welcome Matt Laslo. Let's see here. Wrong button. Matt, how are you, sir?
If you could only see inside my soul, I feel like half dead after this week.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. So so after this train wreck of my Democratic president, I don't think did really well. After this whole train wreck of a thing, what is the buzz in the swamp? I mean, I don't know about you, but I dream of a day when presidential candidates don't look like they belong on ARP or some kind of old folks home commercial.
But the Capitol's always been a retirement home of sorts for these folks. So God bless Washington. The amazing thing, if we all just take a step back from this, if we look at other nations, we're seeing a lot of youthful new lawmakers, for better and for worse. And it's interesting here in America that we're reverting back to these people that, again, polls, the American public has despised, the whole concept of this rematch between these two. And yet, because of our political system, which is this gross two-party system, which the founders rejected. The founders rejected the two-party system when they were writing our whole Constitution. And then the first thing they did in the founding Congress was boom. And the founding administration, even George Washington's own administration, you saw the two-party system emerge with the Federalists and the Republicans of a different era. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Like, hey, everyone out there, you're supposed to be frustrated.
Yeah,
Let's
I know.
do something about it.
I know. I
Shake
am.
up your party. Yeah.
Yeah. I want presidential candidates that don't look like, they're like 90 years old. That's for sure. So speaking of swamp,
but here's the terrible thing about our current system, because all politics is now national. Like when there's talk of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson or Oprah running, I'm like, yeah, any of them can do it. Denzel Washington, Clooney, like all that we have in today's president, except for with Trump, because he doesn't spout the talking points that are fed him. Anyone else, today's politics is all this BS talking points. And so, right. I'm sorry, Biden is very effective as the tool for the Democratic Party right now, for better and for worse.
Yeah, no, that is for sure. So I sorry, I can't talk today. So I referenced the Washington swamp, which of course we know it's a big swamp. So speaking of swamp and swamp creatures, have you seen former director of AARO Sean Kirkpatrick wandering around in the dark alleys of the CIA building?
We have not, but didn't our friend move down to the dirty South? Isn't he in Oak Ridge now?
That's right.
So I might actually bump it. I might bump into him. I'm driving down for the 4th to spend in Nashville with my band family. So I got to introduce my pup Saru to his cousins down there, and aunts and uncles with guitars. And so I'm driving through, and I did my undergrad at MTG's district in North Georgia. I went to a small little Christian school, Covenant College, atop Lookout Mountain, which Lookout Mountain has the infamous notoriety. It made Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech, not for good reasons. Like the Klan got its start atop Lookout Mountain, and like our school, once they integrated in the 60s, it was firebombed. Our library was firebombed atop the mountain by the KKK. And so I'm staying with an undergrad buddy and his family on July 3rd. So I'm like, wait, I'm waking up in MTG's district on the 4th. I think I have to like try and walk in a parade with her. So I'm going to be down there. I've walked in so many parades with politicians, New Hampshire, Iowa. So I'm like, all right, I might be a fly on the wall there. And so if I get time, maybe I'll stop by Oak Ridge and see if Kirkpatrick's hanging out.
Go see if you can find Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick hanging out with the nuclear material, and give him a big hug for me and a big kiss on the cheek. I know Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick is a big fan of the show. No, not really.
Of course. That guy he loves Askapole too.
Yeah, that guy freaking hates me. I can tell you that right now. So back to the whole presidential thing. Do you think that who has a better chance of dumping the whole UAP thing, Biden or Orange Man?
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, this issue it's very unlikely to ever percolate really to the top unless, and I might watch it tonight. This is the annual time of year. This is why I bought the movie Independence Day for this week. And oh my God, do I love watching it, because it's so good. But so yeah, if the extreme happens, every politician's going to be talking about it. But that's the thing. People forget in 2016, Hillary Clinton had kind of agreed, but in a very Clinton-y way, to divulge all these secrets, but there was a Clinton caveat. But it was interesting that it never got much play. It never got any play, but there's like one New York Times story on it and just like was there. And so that's where, especially with the power of today's political donor class, if one donor to one of these polls cares about this issue, I mean, because we know with Trump, kind of the last person he talks to is what he gets out in front of the cameras and says, even though his whole team's like, oh my God, you just upended our entire strategy. So yeah, if people can plant or like get into his ear, I I'm sure he's easily swayable. And because both of them are sucking up ungodly sums of money,
Right.
they are, with that money comes strings. Sorry, Clarence Thomas. Like, maybe you didn't get the memo, but when you get $4 million in gifts,
Yeah.
that's because someone thinks they're buying you. That is why I've never taken a goddamn thing for free in my 18 years here in this swamp. Because no, I don't want to be owned by any of these fuckers, even if it's just in their mind.
I love that. That's what I love about you, Matt Laslo. We know that you're as straight a shooter as they come when it comes to journalists. That is for sure. And we're really glad that you're doing all of this. So let's dig into some of your latest interviews. Now, of course, we always like to talk about UAP stuff, and that's 99.999% of the show. And then, of course, like to talk about Mick West and Dr. Sean Kirk quadcopter. But I thought this one would be interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the wacky weed.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. Curious if you have any thoughts on the TEA moving to reschedule marijuana on their own.
Oh, I'm in, well, let me say this. I need to discuss with my counsel how that exercise of legal authority functions. But broadly speaking, as a policy matter, I am in favor of rescheduling cannabis.
Because I'm curious how you all get the clemency debate, or your guys' desire for clemency to be a part of it if the administration goes it alone. Do you think maybe in Safer Banking Act you can have leverage to get?
I would have to look more deeply into it.
Yeah. Have you looked at Safer Banking?
Yeah.
Do you know where you are on that?
Look, I think that it is a sound idea. I'll have to refresh my review of the text itself, but generally speaking, the proposition that in states where cannabis businesses are legal, there should be some safe harbor for state banks to bank them is sensible, particularly because large amounts of cash are actually a threat to public safety.
Yeah. I was curious, have you ever talked to MTG about prison reform?
No.
Because I've covered it for years. Rolling Stone, Playboy, Vice. And it's interesting in this Congress. Like, I read that, I forget who did the piece on you, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because the most I've heard about prison reform in the 118th has been from MTG, just in the context of the J6 folks. But it's never come up with you and her?
Nope.
Have you ever talked with her? No. Have you guys said? Matt Laslo. What is sir?
So that was Senator John Ossoff.
Ossoff.
Do you think he does a little wacky weed?
No, he's so clean and polished. He might have like inhaled it accidentally at a party
Hanging out
in
with
his
MTG.
undergrad. He seems like he's one of the scary ones who I'm just like, wait, I think you're younger than me, and like you have it way more together than I ever did. Like,
Right.
Wait, he just has that, like what? Bill Clinton was the Rhodes Scholar, and it's like, whoa, you guys were smart and dedicated, driven from an early age. Not snorting lines like old Obama was in his Harvard days. But it's interesting. He has, even though prison reform, like what? I've covered drug policy for years. Rolling Stone, all these publications I covered it for, Vice, they would never take my pitches on prison reform.
Really?
So what I did is I just would stop pitching prison pieces, and I would just do that research and then slide that stuff in to my stories about marijuana and, drug reform. Yeah, America, and this is like liberals and conservatives, like our politicians and political class is fine with locking up record numbers of our neighbors. Like,
Right.
we blow every other nation in the world out. North Korea, Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, they have fucking nothing on America when
Yeah.
it comes to locking up our own. Like we triple and double
Right.
and quadruple most nations. And so it's interesting that for one, that Ossoff has like been talking about prison reform and pushing it. And that could be in part because in Fulton County Jail, right outside of Atlanta, we had a young, mentally unstable inmate. And this is where, Trump was, the mugshot took place. This is also where Young Thug, one of like the biggest rappers, hip hop artists in the world, has been locked up and stuck in he's getting charged with RICO charges, just like Fani Willis has brought against Trump, which is why I'm so dubious of that case against Trump, just because I had studied the hip hop case where they're claiming this record label YSL is a gang. And so they're going after them with RICO charges, using their lyrics, using their social media that makes them, stadium filling groups. They're using that against them. So I've been dubious of Fanny from day one just because of my love for hip hop. But in that jail, an inmate was eaten to death by bed bugs.
Oh my
They
God.
literally found his carcass covered in bed bugs. And so that's American prisons. And like it came up there with Ossoff that the first time I went to DC's jail, and I used to be the NPR correspondent here in DC for WAMU. So I covered the issue locally for DC, and no politician ever invited me to that jail. I would cover it, just never went. I went with MTG earlier, I guess last year, because she was advocating for the J6 prisoners, not hostages. And I've got a complicated record with J6. They attacked my office of 18 years. Like this is start of J6. Where is it? Sort of J6, this was the doorstop for the Senate Radio TV gallery. End of J6, this was in my pocket as a shank because it's pointy. And I also had a wrench that I took from CNN in the other pocket. And so, yeah, I have a very complicated relationship with that day, but it's been interesting to see MTG kind of become this voice of prison reform. Yeah, Democrats roll their eyes because they're like, oh, it's because of these J6 prisoners. But guys, what she's saying is right. American prisons are deplorable, despicable places. We lock up way too many people for way too much stuff. And even stuff that, voters are now legalizing marijuana in like 75% of the nation, even in like deep red states, Mississippi, Kentucky, Idaho, or not Idaho yet, but South Dakota, etc. And so the American people have profoundly rejected at least that aspect of the war on drugs, but the political class has not gotten that memo, and they're still fine. There's bipartisan agreement that locking up tons of brown, black, low-income white folks for things that are now legal. Like I can legally grow marijuana, and I do in my backyard. It's just insane to me. And the fact that like people aren't talking about their clemency for these past convictions or rescinding these convictions on their records or whatever, because like you can't get student loans if you've been busted for this. Oh no, you can't get student loans if you've done what 3 of the last like 5 presidents have done. It's insane. Can't
it is
do
insane.
Military service. ... Well, there's a guy. I always bring up this.
Mm-hmm.
There's I lead one of my Rolling Stone pieces with a federal worker. Can't name him, and like he's got only like 3 or 5 fingers left. He was blown up in Afghanistan, so like American hero. He lost his legs. So he's at the Capitol. He risks getting fired every day because he smokes weed every day. Why? And he told me, he said, I would rather be blown up in Afghanistan again than go through opioid withdrawal. And so he risks losing his federal job because he despises big pharma and the opioids that like raped him more than these bombs did. And so that's where this outdated war on drugs mentality, which, guys, big reason for the border crisis is because with American guns, there are wars raging south of our border. All those countries are destabilized to feed Americans' love for drugs. So, like, I'm kind of in favor of making the new Amsterdam, because what do we know from 50 years of the war on drugs? After 50 years of the war on drugs, we know that Americans fucking love drugs.
They love drugs.
Do anything to do them.
Right. Yeah. No, I hear you.
And that's why that to me is the worst part of the debate. Jake Tapper, that motherfucker, giving props to Biden and Trump. Hey, he's like, I know you guys care about the opioid crisis and have done. Fuck their records, and fuck you, Jake Tapper, for giving him that out. We have had more than 100,000 of our citizens, or roughly 100,000 of our citizens dying annually from these pills pushed by Big Pharma, who owns both political parties. No, fuck them.
Yeah.
Their administrations have done nothing to save our nation from the scourge of these, synthetic drugs. And hey, I fucking love me some good synthetic drugs. But come on, at least start with weed.
Well, I tell you what, if you end up marching in the parade with Marjorie Taylor Greene, please tell her hello, and please ask her to go to the UAP Disclosure Fund and sign the petition. So do a solid for me.
But you're gonna,
give
her. I'm gonna have her sign my joint first.
Yeah, she probably has a few stuff in her purse. Okay, so let's switch to UAP. So you recently tracked down Senator Kirsten Gillibrand as far as regarding the special access program stuff. Let's watch.
Yeah, find my office for me. Were you in there for Bill Nelson on too? When he addressed the office?
I wasn't there.
No.
How was it?
I don't know. Space. I wonder if he... Yeah, I bet it was on this, but... I don't know, what do you discuss? It's fine. Do you anything on your crypto money?
Going down. So, off the record,
Just a quick reminder that this is Ask a Poll, your conduit to Congress. I'm your host, Matt Laslo. And now, back to our latest Ask a Poll exclusive from your U.S. Capitol. Now, when it comes separate UAPs, because I was asked you about it, any talk? Round said that your guys' amendment from last year was maybe going to get some tweaks in this year's NDAA, the UAPDA. What Schumer, you, Heinrich, and Rounds, Rubio. It was
she doesn't even know about
6 of you on it.
Making data and information public?
Yeah.
I don't know that there was anything in the NDAA about that. I've made sure we fully funded the AARO office.
Yeah.
So that was the part I worked on, was funding for AARO. I don't know if there's anything about disclosures.
Yeah.
I think in the final bill, I think it's included my provision that says you can't have any SAPs that aren't disclosed to Congress.
Yeah. Do you still trust? Because Senator Rounds told me that he doesn't trust that Congress knows about all SAPs.
I have no reason to believe that there are SAPs that exist or don't exist.
Yeah.
I have no basis to know one way or the other. I just know the provisions that I've tried to include would try to guarantee that we know about all SAPs.
Yeah. What's interesting over in the House.
For example, I don't know if there are presidential SAPs, meaning.
Interesting.
I don't know if there's legal structure under our framework for presidents to put special access programs for president eyes only. And if that exists, then I don't know about it. But I don't think that should exist based on balance of powers and based on the fact that Congress is responsible for allocating money.
Yeah. Do you think your amendment would weed that
That's
out?
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because over in the House, the UAP caucus, they were just pressing the Secretary of Energy on kind of their role with this.
And I don't know if there's Department of Energy SAPs that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have oversight of the Department of Energy. I have oversight over Department of Defense and Intel. So I can follow up on that and ask my colleagues who are on the right committee on Energy and Commerce if they've ever looked into it.
That's so interesting for me to hear senators be like, I don't know.
Well,
because it seems
if there are any programs, we are not ready. That's all I can say.
But you're fucking United States Congress.
What's wrong?
Appreciate you. Have a good one.
but you're the effing United States Congress. That's great. So some of the audio is a
Don't
little
you know
bit.
your job, Senator?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Constitution, flex it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So some of the audio was a little bit difficult to hear there. So maybe kind of walk us through some of the main points quickly that she touched on.
Well, to me, the biggest takeaway, I mean, the overall thing is Gillibrand still tells us at Ask a Poll that she's planning and tasked her staff with setting up a public Senate UAP hearing with AARO. She says it's still on for either, she's hoping July, which is probably increasingly less likely, but either that or September. So that's the overall backdrop. And it's interesting because she wants AARO to come and present to the American people, hey, this is the metrics we're using. This is how we've identified XYZ objects. But then she also wants the conversation about why they're struggling, have struggled, or haven't been able to identify that other tranche of, what are they called? UAPs / UFOs.
I've heard of those things.
And so that's where, well, you'd be surprised. Many members of Congress haven't. Even ones on key committees. Oh, God, they're so bad. No, that was the thing with the start of that with Gillibrand. Like, listen, she was confused on, like, she was one of the 6 co-sponsors with Schumer of the UAPDA. And that is being amended or tweaked behind the scenes, according to Senator Rounds, who's in talks with Schumer on it. Gillibrand, that's your bill, and she just hasn't heard anything about it and doesn't know anything. And so that's where half of what we do at Ask a Poll, like, we're not just your conduit to Congress, everyone out there, and thanks for all our subscribers. We're literally the conduit for information between House and Senate. Like, Gillibrand had no idea AOC cared about this issue for the military contracting angle, so I played matchmaker with them. Same with some of the Republicans, like Rubio, and then, UAP caucus co-chair Luna, same freaking state, guys. Maybe you have a conversation, but no, they don't. And that's also what sticks out from the Ossoff cannabis interview that we started with. I was like, have you ever talked to MTG about this? Because you're passionate about the issue. She is. And he looked at me like, I don't think he's ever talked to MTG, which, sure, I get that, but like, guys, that's your delegation. Like,
sure.
Yeah, at the very least, have conversations with these people, because that's the problem with American politics. Like, purity has become this, like, something that we all think is attainable, but we don't. And so now we're all, because all politics is national, we just allow whatever party we ascribe to like dictate the rules of our increasingly narrow, algorithmically driven worldview. Have a fucking conversation with someone, and guess what? They might not bite your head off. They might disagree with you on some stuff, but like, yeah.
Well, it's
so
like
anyway, back to Gillibrand.
Oh yeah, yes, please go ahead.
Yeah.
You were saying.
Well, no. So then the meat of it, SAPs and special access programs. That's where it was interesting talking to like the mild-mannered, good old Midwestern boy, Plains boy, Senator Rounds. Because he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure there are SAPs that are still hidden from Congress. Gillibrand there tells us, I don't know. And it's wise of her to say that Congress doesn't know what they don't know. And so she's like, I have no idea. She put an amendment in last year's NDAA to try to sniff out any SAPs. So I was kind of asking like, hey, have you gotten anything back? Has it worked? No, not yet that they know of. But like compare that with the news we broke this week of over on the House side with Jim Himes, who I guess a couple of weeks ago, he's the top Dem on HPSCI, or the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Jim Himes sat down with AARO, and I think it was a intel briefing or whatever, but he comes out of there 1,000% convinced that there's nothing over American skies that they don't know. And it's,
yes.
But
Yeah.
But the wild thing about Jim Himes, he came to Congress he was a Goldman Sachs banker up in New York when 9/11 hit. His like claim to fame was like running home from New York when everything was shut down to Connecticut after the attacks. So he runs on that, but he runs, I think, first elected in 2006. So a part of that wave of Democrats running on the mismanagement and the lies of the Bush administration that led to the Iraq War. So he came in running on, hey, I'm here to fix this corrupt government. We're going to do oversight and we're going to right the ship. Did you do such good work, Congressman, that none of the other of us have seen that you've completely righted the ship of, the federal bureaucracy? Or is it just convenient for you now to believe 100% what these folks are telling you? Because over on the Senate side, these two members of both Senate Intel and Senate Armed Services, so they had highest level of classified, clearances. They, Gillibrand, she is dubious of the Biden administration for this because she doesn't look at it as Biden. And I think that's where Himes might see it as, oh, it's Biden. So my job is to just defend the administration wholesale. It's a little deeper than that because he just doesn't care about the issue, thinks it sucks up too much oxygen, thinks anyone talking about it's a nut job, which is why I always go into it from the drones. Because I'm like, no. There are things in American airspace that the government has no idea what they are. Congressman, if you know what they are and telling us all we should stop worrying about this, give us some proof. And so he tells Gillibrand she shouldn't even have the hearing in the Senate. He's like, the senators need to talk to AARO. Bro, what Gillibrand is trying to do, the way she envisions the hearing, is getting AARO to explain themselves because they got a shit record, as everyone listening here knows, and then to also talk about the unknowns. Himes doesn't even want to entertain that, which to me is just so wild.
And we're going to play the clip with Himes here in a bit. So let's maybe put a pin in that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But so everyone be heartened. And when we play the Himes, remember that compared to what Gillibrand just told us, where she's like, and what she also brings up in there that's interesting is she says there could be presidential, most of the community has been focused on, SAPs within the Pentagon or possibly within the contracting, military industrial complex, contracting community. Maybe those SAPs are being hidden by these contractors, have been some of the theories. Well, at the end of last month or whatever, we had the UAP caucus tag team, the Secretary of Energy, Burchett and Luna, pushed Granholm on potential, the Department of Energy's role/not role in this. And you can look at those exclusives. We have follow-ups with them on askapol.com. But so you have exploration of the Pentagon SAPs, now Department of Energy SAPs are a part of the mix. Well, Gillibrand, she goes, well, there might be presidential SAPs. She's like, do you know? She's like, no, we don't know. And so that's, again, where they're trying to smoke out where these could be. Also asked her about the Department of Energy. And that's, again, where they're like, no, we don't know. And so what does that say? Well, if there's these special access programs that Congress doesn't even know about, well, why the fuck would this new kid on the block, AARO, be read in on these programs? And so that's where Jim Himes is kind of, to his colleagues, displaying this insane amount of naivete by trusting that AARO is fully read in on every SAP when his colleagues on Intel in the Senate say that they aren't even convinced that there's no SAPs in the Pentagon, let alone that there aren't in the Department of Energy, let alone presidential ones, and then let alone in the contracting community. And so that lack of inquisitiveness, and Himes just saying, no, this is already settled. Look, AARO is the shiny city on the hill.
Yeah.
Well, Himes, you say that senators need to talk to AARO. You need to talk to your Senate colleagues.
Right.
Because guess what? they're embodying a healthy amount of skepticism. Like Rubio was pretty pissed off at Kirkpatrick because Kirkpatrick failed the American people by failing his most basic duty, which was basically Congress outsourced their thinking on UAPs to AARO. And one of the ways that it was supposed to be a repository and get this investigation really going is we needed whistleblowers within the government or veterans who were people who did serve in the government for them to trust AARO. And Rubio is still livid because AARO has failed at that. Veterans, current service members do not trust AARO. So if AARO is closed down effectively to whistleblowers, it's failing at its most basic mandate to suck up information. And if Himes is like, oh, it's fine because, the top Pentagon brass, like it's their mouthpiece. Well, what does the top Pentagon brass fucking matter? They're not the ones in the field who are continuously reporting these things that are really freaking them out, let alone our commercial airline pilots who are seeing a lot of this stuff. So, yeah.
My
heart rate up.
I get it. And I have to apologize. So, just a second ago, so I put up on the screen your lower third. I phonetically spell last names because I tend to butcher them, so I misspelled your last name. So it's Laslo, not Laslo. I apologize.
But actually, for NPR, I've got my own bureau where I cover Congress for all these NPR stations and whenever I give my name to an NPR host, I always spell it out phonetically, Lazlo. W. Well, I'm used to seeing the W back there.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I can't wait to have former retired Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet on. So hopefully I don't butcher his name 5 different times, his last name 5 different times, like I did on the last one.
Hey, NPR trick, just say it quickly and move on. Yeah. Just say it quickly and move on.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. All right. So speaking of Senator Gillibrand, of course, she's been always in the news with UAP topic. And of course, she has her hopefully hearing coming up. It looks like Senator Mark Warner is kind of unaware.
Yeah, UAP hearing in the Senate, either July or September. So she wants to have AARO. She said she wants AARO to explain it to the American public, how they've tracked some of these unknown objects, but then also to get into the ones that they can't identify. But it seems like you're pretty convinced that the ones they can't identify are nothing anyone should worry about.
Let me do a little research and be happy to share my thoughts after I do it.
We'll have these. Kane brought it up to the Joint Chiefs, the intrusions over Langley of all the drones.
Yeah, that is
highly brought up over Luke Air Force Base. But they're convinced that these are foreign nations. So are we going to have that conversation with the American people? Peace sign from the Intel chair.
Peace sign. So I didn't catch everything you said there. What was the long and short of it?
He said nothing there. Like the takeaway from that, and I think him and I are playing 5-dimensional chess on this issue. And I kind of, our last interview, he didn't love it. So this one, you could tell their new comm strategy. And I teach a little bit at Johns Hopkins. I'm a political comms professor, so I was studying this, and it was funny because you could tell his staff was like, all right, so next time Laslo comes up to you and asks about UAPs, just like, don't say anything. And so that's where,
go running for the hills.
That was their strategy. So that's where it ends with him, the Senate Intel chair, literally holding up a peace sign to me. And, I sent them an email, which is on askapol.com, but basically comparing him to my former hippie pothead dad, because that was common back in those days. But it's interesting there. For one, Warner, kind of like Himes, is like, And remember, they're both Gang of Eight. So like maybe they have been convinced and seen this stuff that, hey, there are no UAPs and ... End of story. What they're failing to remember is that they have utterly failed to communicate that to the American people and their colleagues. And so if it's at this high level of state secrets or whatever, well, why are we still having intrusions of unknown objects that are flying above sensitive military bases and above sensitive nuclear facilities? And their colleagues are very worried about those specifically. They seem to be fine with them, which, again, come on, at some point, like, no, at Askapol, sorry, every day we're going to frickin' ask you about this until you either show us your cards,
right?
But like, you can't claim this is a non-issue until you prove something. And hey, guys, guess what? You still haven't even disproved the UFO whistleblower from this time last year, David Grusch. Like, literally, what David Grusch told Congress is that, yes, first claim, recovered craft, that they are, the American government has them. Well, they haven't put that to rest. You know, there's still the investigation about those SAPs. Put that aside, Grusch's second claim to Congress is a middle finger to them, because what they're doing is derelict of their duty and basically a middle finger to the Constitution. Because Grusch's second claim is that there are these special access programs hidden from Congress, and they have not come out and said, look, we did a forensic examination, or we audited the entire federal government, and no, they do not exist anywhere, ... Even though Grusch said they're here, look here. We did and did our own investigation, and no, debunk. So like, they have not taken Grusch, especially in the Senate. They haven't taken him head on, disproved anything. They just want him to go away. And so that's where, and Askapol, we're not letting the conversation go away, because there's such an arrogance. And like, what? I've covered Warner for years for Virginia Public Radio and WAMU, and then Himes for years for WSHU in Fairfield, Connecticut. You know, like, I've cried with the Newtown families with him in the delegation, because I covered them intimately after the Sandy Hook massacre. And so like, I've seen really good sides. And Warner, like, after Virginia Tech shooting, and then after Navy Yard, ... So like, yeah, I've wept with, I cry a lot when I cover dead children, or even dead adults when like Navy Yard gets attacked. And so I have seen like really good sides, like as good as you can get as a politician, of these people. So I have good rapport with both of them. But I'm like, guys, you don't even hear the arrogance dripping out of you, where it's like, hey, we're so convinced that we're just going to look down on the 2 million people on UFO Reddit, Yeah. And again, put up or shut up. If you guys have been convinced, for one, show that to your damn colleagues, so then maybe they would stop raising these false signals. Or maybe your colleagues are actually asking different questions than AARO or the Pentagon is answering to you. Because you don't care about the issue, you aren't asking the right questions. Because when I ask you certain questions, you don't even know what the damn acronym is. So yeah, it's just silly season where this Congress is very good at playing ostrich.
Well, and speaking of clueless and playing ostrich, here is, let's see, who do we have here? So here's Jim Himes, speaking of clueless.
Please.
What's your favorite one so far, sir?
Well, of course, going from the court district. Attic, you're paid to say that. I kind of am, aren't I? I kind of am. Yeah, but actually, I've seen them for the first time.
Well, they've been a lot better as years.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting to me. I'll tell you what I'm observing is that it's interesting how unpolitical they are, right? I figured there would be like a little more politics than usual, but I don't see politics, you know?
They leave that out. Remember, turn up Black Lives Matter.
I there's this that was the feeling of like police officers.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm spread. Yeah.
Here's how NDAA this year, it doesn't seem like there's much tension. Or are we going to see that?
Well, you know, the sad thing is, you know, we got 3 appropriates bills this week. And, you know, because they have a larger, every one of those bills, their culture war fever dreams, we're just going to vote no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's too bad, right?
So I guess at NDAA at the end, they did put all that stuff in policy
The
in.
Democrats who were yeses, and I like the amendment process. There wasn't a single Democrat who was he was. They're not my title situation.
Because, you know, I'm still fishing around to find out what happened to Schumer's UAP amendment last year in the NDAA. And I haven't found out.
So I got an extensive brief, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, by whatever the hell, what's the unit that, you know, AARO. And I mean, it pains me to say, because like there's thousands of people out there who wake up in the morning desperate for there to be evidence of alien life, but there's none.
Yeah.
You know, and they looked at every single compartmented program. And yeah, there was a program here or there that was set up in the event that we found something, but there's just nothing there.
Huh.
I don't talk about it because
Yeah.
9 out of 10 people don't care, and 1 out of 10 people will light themselves on fire.
Yeah. Fair. Well, because Senator Gillibrand wants to bring in AARO either in July or September for a public hearing to kind of explain some of their thinking and metrics, but she also wants to focus on some of the stuff they haven't been.
Senators need to get briefed and then move on.
Yeah.
Just way too much energy, and there is no there.
Right.
So
Interesting.
before senators start talking with them,
Yeah.
they need to get briefed.
Well, have you, because some people, like Senator Rounds, who's Intel and Armed Services, same with Gillibrand, they both aren't convinced that Congress knows every SAP or Special Access Program.
Well, they need to get briefed by AARO. AARO will take them through every single compartment program.
So you're convinced that AARO has full access to everything in the Pentagon, but also in Department of Energy, etc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Now, are there 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 phenomenon that we don't have the science around, that we'll some sighting or whatever? No, it's not perfection.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, I wish we had aliens, but we don't.
Yeah.
But we can't.
What do you think? Because Gillibrand also in the NDAA is fighting for more sensors above military installations and nuclear facilities, which some say is drone incursions. Are you convinced that the Air Force, etc., has American skies protected? That we, I mean, because last year, remember the balloon invaded U.S. airspace.
So again, hopefully we're off the UAP thing. But, you know, a balloon wandered over our airspace. Why? Because we had the best sensors in the world looking for really fast-moving things coming from the north. We didn't have sensors looking for slow-moving things coming from the west, or the west.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's work to do.
Yeah. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Have a good one.
What a clueless son of a bitch.
You're right.
Unbelievable.
But yet he's lecturing down to his Senate colleagues to get this briefing from the gods at AARO. Himes, you don't know that in the Senate, AARO, which kind of was birthed by the Senate, you know, Gillibrand's kind of its mom, Rubio's its stepfather, for lack of a better term. Like, they got investment in this new group, and according to the Senate's own standard for this new group, they're failing. And so that's where Himes is like, look, shiny city on a hill. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? That shithole nation? Yeah.
How arrogant. I mean, what an arrogant son of a bitch. It just blows me. And actually, this is my first, I cut the video and, put it in After Effects and did the whole thing, but I didn't listen to any of it. And I'm frankly just completely stunned.
It's appalling.
It is.
It talks down to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone who's listening, everyone who cares about this issue, or pardon me, anyone out there who's like, even not like fully in on the issue, just got into it and like has questions, has legitimate questions, because if you followed Ask a Poll, we've got a solid block of U.S. senators. Tim Kaine brought up the incursions over Langley. Langley Air Force Base in Virginia had to move fleets of $1 billion jets because it became not safe. That's U.S. soil. And you're rolling your eyes. Mark Kelly brought up the same problem at Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. Then Gillibrand, she brought it up after touring Air Force bases in Nevada and contracting facilities, Lockheed and Northrop Grumman, I believe, all classified. She came away from that saying she's fighting in this year's NDAA for more sensors because there's this broad agreement in classified settings, whether it's the military-industrial complex, contractors, or the Air Force, that know Jim Himes, they have no idea what is flying over American airspace. Now, Senator Kelly, he tells me he's pretty much convinced. He laughs off. He's an astronaut. He laughs off, rolls his eyes at the whole UAP, UFO issue. But that makes him like 90 to 100% convinced that this is foreign actors regularly intruding American airspace with drones. Guys, if that is the case, that American airspace is being continuously penetrated by our foreign adversaries, then what the hell are we even talking about this presidential debate for? CNN, Fox, MSNBC should stop sucking Trump's little trial dick and focus on this issue. Because since the balloon incursion last year, and then those 3 other objects shot down, which have never really been shown to the American public, they just moved on. And that's where the intel community, as through Intel Chair Mark Warner, and then ranking Democrat in the House, Jim Himes, they're of that camp, like, hey, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. No, there's a lot to see here. And with Tim Kaine, former, VP presidential candidate, with him pressing both the head of Northcom and Southcom in front of the Senate publicly about the persistent intrusion above Langley, that's what I pressed Warner on. Like, hey, that's your state. You represent them. And actually that woke him up. That was the only time he went off their don't answer Laslo, because I brought up his state. So he had to. And he's like, yeah, I know about it. Yeah, because your constituents around there are rightly freaking out. Why? Because your colleague, Senator Tim Kaine, told us at Ask a Poll that they don't know. He's like, the problem with this, and he also pressed them on it in the classified setting. He, coming away from that, tells us at Ask a Poll that we don't know the rules of engagement on U.S. soil in more suburban areas like Langley. Okay. So now we're talking about using our $1 million a pop missiles over these objects that are currently unknown, at least to the senators, that are hovering over American airspace and military bases and nuclear facilities, and actually forcing us to change our military posture and move billion-dollar jets because we don't control that airspace. That's insanity. What are we dropping close to $1 trillion a year on the Pentagon industrial complex for if they can't even protect American airspace? Like, literally, you guys are failing your most basic constitutional duty to protect America. And if they're like, oh, these are just trials, like, what did we just see with our allies in Israel? We saw an unprecedented drone attack. And yeah, it failed because of U.S. help or whatever. But guess what? That was kind of the first we were seeing it in Ukraine as well, but this was a big, massive, targeted one. Guess what? Iran and every other nation now adapted and changed based on how that was fought back. And so that's definitely not the last time we're going to see swarms of drones attacking a nation. And from what U.S. senators are saying, they think there's at least surveillance being happened by our foreign adversaries. And one thing they say is like, oh, they can just buy this drone technology off the shelf now. So it's easy for like a Chinese spy to fly it. Whoa, 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 whoa. No. Like one of my interns, former intern, Andre, he was my MA student at Hopkins, but he's working with me at Askapol now. He plays around with drones. And he, here in DC, went to like fly his drone. This is like the shittiest city in the world to have a drone because it's so much restricted airspace that his drone just shuts down in restricted airspace because that's how you buy them off the shelf. So if foreign actors are like then tweaking it, or if they're bringing in other drone technology, like the fact that we don't even know, and it's like, hey guys, maybe the Air Force needs to invest in a really big fucking net. Maybe that can catch one of these butterflies hovering over it. Like the idiocy, and even like we don't have snipers that can like shoot one of these down because senators are confused on what they even are. And so again, maybe Gang of Eight knows what they are and they're fine with it. But again, don't tell the American people to stop asking these questions when your own goddamn colleagues are continuously asking these questions and have been, and getting more pissed off by the day because of the runaround from folks like you.
Yeah, exactly.
And AARO.
Yeah. Well, and I know we only have a little bit longer with you here. So I have a message.
That's when my alarm keeps going off.
Yeah, I know. That's
we got started a little late. We'll go to 10 after.
Yeah. We'll do the last one, and afterwards I've got. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I've got actually 4 features to write. I'm gonna try to take the 4th of July week off because Congress is gone, but that means I've got all this content to pump out. Fun times.
Well, so after you folks, I've got a message for Congressman Jim Himes and or Hines. Is Hines or Himes?
Himes.
Okay. Anyway,
Himes.
I've got a message for him and some information you guys are going to want to know about AARO. So before that, before we do that, let's move on. This is finally from Congressman Jared Moskowitz.
All right, you got it.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
What's going on?
It's top. Got them on Intel, and he said they had a briefing from AARO.
Ooh.
Have you ever talked with him about it?
Jim Himes?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, but he can't unless I go into a skiff with him. He can't tell me what the briefing was.
Well, he says this whole UAP investigation is a waste of time. Like he's 1,000% convinced, and has been by AARO.
Huh? What do you think? AARO's going to walk in and be like, "Yeah, it's true."
Right.
I mean, we know that there are UAPs, and we know that there are UAPs they can't explain.
Right.
Why can't they explain them?
Where do you want to see this investigation go?
We talked to pilots.
Yeah.
Right. We talked to pilots, decorated pilots, people not part of this whole thing, who say, "I know what I saw."
Yeah.
Right. Over basis. So, look, I don't do this deep state nonsense.
Yeah.
But no, there is definitely a concerted effort by our government, right, to keep information from us. Yeah. When the stealth helicopters came out of Area 51, right, to go kill Osama bin Laden, nobody knew those helicopters existed.
Right.
Okay. And the only reason we know they exist is because one of them crashed.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Do you think we'll get a public UAP hearing ahead of the election?
I mean, look, my Republican colleagues have been pushing the speaker on this. They've told me we're going to get a select committee. I signed that letter. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
I think right now it looks like it's done.
Yeah. We'll see.
You got it.
Appreciate it. Have a good 4th.
Wow. Okay.
He took it to
at least
Moskowitz.
I like this guy. He seems to have a clue.
But here's the funny thing. So we're going to take a step back. Himes, he's a Democrat. Moskowitz, he's a Democrat. So when I initially asked, like, hey, you discussed this UAP issue that you're passionate about, member of the UAP caucus, you talked about this with Himes, right? And initially he just goes, yeah, of course. But then he's like, but it's classified, so it'd have to be in a skip. No, motherfucker. You never talked to him about this issue. You respect the shit out of him. That's what we know from your response. But no, because the first time I tell him what Himes told us at Ask a Poll, which offended you, Matt Ford, and basically all of our 3,000 plus subscribers. No, Moskowitz had never heard Himes. And so when he heard that Himes was laughing this off, Moskowitz just laughs in his fucking face. Like, you believe this? And he's like, no, there are SAPs that we know we don't know about. And so that's where Himes is like sitting, him and Warner and the rest are like sitting in this, ivory soap tower. Cause like, it's not very stable.
And it doesn't smell good.
But because this Congress is so dysfunctional and the blame goes around, the House was out last week, the Senate's out this week. So they get, even though American people get one day off for July 4th, and actually, no, many American people fucking work on holidays because there's no guaranteed time off for the majority of the nation. What does the Senate give themselves? They give themselves 2 weeks off, same that they did for Memorial Day. And so also, one thing we're seeing new in the Senate, again, I've been covering Congress 18 years now, Senate this year and last, this is the first 3-day Senate that the nation's ever known. It's sickening. The Senate usually flies in, like in the past, like 2 years ago when Mitch McConnell was running things, they would fly in Monday night, take their first vote at 5:30, and then leave DC by 3 o'clock on Thursday. So Monday to Thursday work week. This year, like last year, half the time the Senate doesn't have their first vote in DC until Tuesday night at 5:30. Now, that doesn't mean that they stick around until Friday. No. They still fly out by 3 p.m. on Thursday. So the U.S. Senate, half the time, is working a 2.5 day week, then taking 2 weeks off, etc. So House, kind of same thing. It's an election year. And so that schedule, Republicans control schedule in the House, Dems in the Senate, every American should be so infuriated just by those numbers alone that we have a 3-day-a-week Congress. These folks are making 6 figures of our tax dollars to what? To not do their jobs, but to spend all their time on their reelection. Dialing for dollars, not talking to their colleagues. And like Moskowitz, everyone agrees he's passionate. He cares about this issue, but he's never talked to his Democratic colleague about the issue. And so that's where kind of that old taint for the issue. I mean, because I've gotten a lot of shit since covering this topic. A lot of eye rolls from lawmakers, but a lot of journalists and the media are like, oh, Laslo is now this UFO, tinfoil guy. And I'm like, no, motherfuckers. Y'all can think that, but you're thinking some stupid 1970s pop sci-fi BS, as opposed, like some Twilight Zone stuff, as opposed to the reality of today.
Right.
Which is that we are seeing, record numbers and just huge amounts of complaints from, again, veterans, current service members, and commercial airline pilots. And fuck, we had our airspace invaded by a goddamn balloon. And the fact that any of these networks are going to allow this Congress to allow American airspace to be invaded by a fucking balloon, no, they are jokes. Literally, we drop about $1 trillion on Pentagon toys annually, and they can't, for one, shoot down because they miss that $1 million missile. We've learned that, our Air Force has too good of toys, that maybe we might just want to like fly our own hot air balloons, or again, get nets. And so like the fact that we allow these powerful, secret, moneyed interests to control this debate, whether it's the contracting community or the Pentagon brass, folks at Department of Energy, like, no. The American people now rightfully are demanding answers for a lot of these questions. And no, the tropes of old are not going to work anymore, especially because someone just pointed out on Twitter, I believe one of your followers, that, the whole Five Guys, Five Eyes.
Five Eyes. Five Guys, yeah. Five Guys sounds good, though. I'm kind of hungry.
But that above Congress's heads, at the intelligence community, not intelligence committee level, that, America at the highest levels is talking with other nations, their intel communities about UAPs. So no, you can't just roll your eyes and say it's a non-issue. Well, guess what? Through FOIA, we just found out that Jim Himes and Warner are either full of shit, or they're not doing their jobs, and they have no idea that our intel community is in talks with these other nations. Oh yeah, Christopher Mellon. He just, I guess earlier this week, tweeted it out. But the fact that our Five Eyes here, what is it? I guess Sean Kirkpatrick here, I'm reading Grant Levon's tweet. We're breaking AARO's Five Eyes forum on UAPs, led by Sean Kirkpatrick in May 2023, officially called the Five Eyes inaugural UAP caucus working group. So what the hell do we have members of the Senate and House Intel committees with straight faces telling us that this is a non-issue when no, now 4 of our biggest allies when it comes to like legit deep state, like international NSA spying over everything. Remember, supposedly they can't collect our phone calls and data on US citizens, but all of that apparatus at NSA is being used, the warrantless surveillance. That's what all of our freaking allies are using, and we're probably leaning on them for them to surveil us, because wink, wink, nod, nod. But what are they all talking about? The people who are the most cued in the world when it comes to intelligence matters. They think UAPs is a worthy topic and one that they're worried about, concerned about, and taking seriously. So, yeah, Moskowitz, talk to your Democratic colleagues on
please.
Intel. Just talk to your colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm going to talk about Himes and AARO after you're off. I know you've got a few articles to write there. So you Matt, you do amazing work. I think this is like your 6th time on the show or 10th time or something like that. I tell you what, if this show ever gets picked up and produced by a real company rather than me, I know who I would want as my co-host.
Would love it.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get you on there. So, okay. So, folks, Matt, how can folks support your work at Ask a Poll? I am a subscriber. I'm a paid subscriber. This guy does amazing work, man. Nothing is for free. Nothing in the world is for free. People have bills to pay. Matt, how can we support your work and keep you doing what you're doing?
So we're over at askapoll.com. We've got some summer interns working for us. So Lord knows they need beer money and money for their fake IDs or whatever. But actually this month, we just turned 1. So we've only been around for 1 year. But guess what? In that 1 year, we've published 401 posts. And yeah, there's only 365 days in a year. So even though we're a small, scrappy startup, we are punching above our weight and holding. Oh, and in that time also, besides my 3 epidurals, including the one I got yesterday for my bulging discs in my back.
Oh, okay.
But we also interviewed all 100 U.S. senators on UAPs last year, and specifically on David Grusch's claims. And then we're in the midst of dropping all 100 interviews with every U.S. senator on cannabis and the Safer Banking Act and all that, because Congress, the Senate doesn't vote. And so what are we doing at Ask a Poll? We're doing the Senate's job for them, because we're actually finding out, like, there's all these lists of like, oh, we think this is how the 100 senators are going to potentially vote on this cannabis policy. Well, guess what, guys? From the 100 interviews I did, and interviews are done, now it's just dropping all the content. Guess what? Your whip lists are way off. And that's why, Schumer, you don't bring bills up for votes. I'm going to do your job so we can actually be informed. And guess what? Because these issues don't come to the floor, half of members don't even, like half the senators, probably 75% of them, hadn't even heard of Grusch's claims. So an important thing we're doing at Ask a Poll with the support of our subscribers is informing this dipshit Congress. But all that to say, because it is our birthday month, we've got a sick sale going on. Bottom basement. Like, you can subscribe for free at askapoll.com. But if you support us, I think right now we got a 45% off sale, which might go down to 50% off tomorrow, because it's our birthday month. And then sale gone on July 1st. So get some. Can't do what we do without you. And like, the main thing we do is we take your questions and ask them to your politicians. So you all make us look brilliant, and you help us piss off the political elite. Fun times. Fun times.
You know, I while you were talking, I just had an epiphany. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Next election, you and I both run for senators in our state, so we can right this effed up ship, because it's a freaking train wreck. Yeah. And I swear, it's like you're like speaking truth to power. I'm speaking truth to power. There are a lot of other people that are, but clearly these clowns in Washington, D.C., doesn't matter what party you're talking about, with this Jim Himes character, unbelievable. It's just insane. We could win, you and I.
Now, I've done a lot of drugs in my day, but I still have a lot of brain cells left, and hell no would I ever run for Congress. Fuck that shit.
I'd vote for you.
I love throwing stones at glass houses.
Well, Matt Laslo, thank you so much.
I get to throw stones at glass houses for a living.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm honored that you came today. If I had 3 or 4 epidurals yesterday, I'd probably still be laid out on the couch with my dog. You're hardcore.
Don't remind me that people nap. I think I've also put in more than 10 48-hour days for Ask a Poll in that year.
Yeah, why am I
sleep when I die?
Yeah, why am I not surprised? All right, Matt Laslo, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate you. Happy 4th, everyone. Have a good holiday.
Happy 4th indeed. I love having Matt on this show. This guy, he speaks truth to power. He is literally one of the only journalists on Capitol Hill that is there all the time, asking these important questions regarding the whole UAP issue. And you've got a lot of other people doing great work, journalists, Chris Sharp, Mark von Rennenkamp, Ross Coulthart, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell. I mean, there are a whole host of folks, but I don't know of anyone that essentially just camps out on Capitol Hill, tracking these senators and congressmen and women down. And I've been a financial supporter of Matt for quite some time. I believe that for people like him, really anyone, as I mentioned earlier, it's like doing this show, doing what he's doing, other podcasters and whatnot. This this takes time out of our day. Our day, time is money, and as opposed to spending my time on a day job or Matt working somewhere else, he's pursuing, much as the same for myself and others. We're pursuing something that we are passionate about because we know it's important. We know it's a national security issue, and all I can say is if my viewers here are not supporting Ask a Poll, Matt Laslo, Ask a Poll, I certainly hope you will consider doing so. So, as I mentioned, I've got a day job. I work on other television shows, not in front of the camera, but behind it. So yesterday, while I was working on a show that I won't mention, I was spending the whole day putting these clips together and doing the little fancy little squiggly line for the graphics and whatnot. But because I was at work, I was kind of doing it without listening to what was going on. So, I have to say that the whole Jim Himes thing, it is just so disturbing, and especially someone from my own party as a Democrat, to hear someone that is just so utterly disconnected from reality. So Congressman Jim Himes or your Chief of Staff, Kara Camacho, I hope you're listening. Here's what I would say to you. I'm taking it at face value that Congressman Himes, you're a very sharp, smart individual, but your behavior on this topic is quite frankly very puzzling. I can't believe that you are not intelligent enough to understand what's going on. So this is what I would say to you, Congressman Himes. So what I can share, and I can't share a lot because I haven't been given permission to, but what I can tell you what is going on with AARO leadership. Now, what I can tell you is that there are good people in AARO, that are doing really great work. But Congressman Himes and Chief of Staff Camacho, what I can tell you is AARO, the leadership, does not have the American people's best interest in heart, or yours. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that they are flat out lying to you. There was trying to think how I can say this without getting into trouble here. There was a very high-ranking former military individual, very high-ranking, that went in for a discussion with AARO. It was the deputy director or the interim director of AARO, Tim Phillips, and a member of the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. Now, this individual that went in for this meeting with AARO, this person has held and probably continues to hold TSSCI clearance. This person is well aware and has been exposed to the UAP UFO topic as part of their very long-running career serving this nation. And again, this isn't people would know who this person is if I were to mention this person's name. So this person goes in and goes in for this meeting, probably much like you did, Congressman Himes, and maybe you got the same treatment. But what I can tell you is the head of AARO, Tim Phillips, essentially tried to pull we'll just say an intelligence operation off on this former high-ranking military official, basically telling this person that all of this is baloney. There's nothing to see here. If people are seeing anything, it's probably blue tech. This is all a waste of time. And yeah, there's nothing to see here. This is all a bunch of baloney. So you've got the head of AARO, Tim Phillips, telling a former high-ranking military officer who, if he were to appear on this show right now, I guarantee you probably 80% of the American public would recognize. So he goes in to talk to AARO, and they tell him there's nothing to see here. When this guy, because of the security clearances that he had and the experiences he had in dealing with this topic. I don't know if Tim Phillips is a freaking just a clueless idiot like Director Sean Kirkpatrick clearly was, but for this person to go in for a meeting with AARO, thinking that it's going to be just a 30, 40-minute AARO, and it turns into a 2-hour-long disinformation operation on this high-ranking individual who has done, I mean, I've looked at this guy's CV. This individual has done more things for this nation than probably any of us ever have, certainly more than you've ever done, Congressman Jim Himes. And so this guy goes in and he sits in for this just complete bullshit that Tim Phillips is telling him. And all the while, this individual is thinking to himself, oh my God, I can't believe they are running a disinfo op on me. Do they not understand the things I've done for this country? Do they not understand that I have, in the course of my job, dealt directly with the UAP issue? This guy's sitting here probably just biting his lip, thinking, number one, how insulting is it for the head of AARO to think that I am dumb enough to fall for this kind of disinformation campaign? A guy that has served this country since this person went into a military academy at 18. This guy that I would venture to say just about anyone in national security knows who this individual is. And this guy goes in and he sits across the desk from Tim Phillips and his AFOSI, whatever the hell this guy is. And he runs a whole disinformation operation on this retired military officer. And while he's listening to it, he's thinking, I can't believe what I'm hearing. And I can't believe they are doing this to someone of my rank. So, Jim Himes, when you go in front of the camera, and Chief of Staff Kara Camacho, your boss, goes in front of the camera, belittles the topic, spouts the same kind of BS that AARO is putting out, this whole snow job. Either Congressman Himes, you are woefully incompetent and have no clue, or you're as dumb as my pet rock. But at the end of the day, you are jeopardizing our national security, Congressman Himes. If you are that clueless to go and sit inside the AARO office and have the interim director, Tim Phillips, who, oh, by the way, is on detail from OD&I. That is why he is there. I can't fathom that you are this ignorant. I can't fathom that you are this clueless. So the only thing that leads me to wonder is, if you're doing this on purpose. But Congressman Himes, what you need to do, sir, is you need to go and speak to the members in the Senate that know about this stuff. You, sir, need to go talk to Senator Marco Rubio. You need to go talk to Senator Gillibrand staffers and Senator Gillibrand. More importantly, sir, you need to bring in these whistleblowers who have filed PPD 19s with the Inspector General, the ICIG, and the DODIG. You put them in a skiff and you put them under oath, under the threat, or under the penalty of perjury, just like David Grusch did in front of Congress. You listen to all the things that they have to say. And if you come out of that meeting and you spout the same amount of garbage that you are doing, then you, sir, do not belong in Congress. Because you, at the end of the day, Congressman, you are not protecting this country. You're making a mockery out of it. You know, while Matt was talking, I looked on the phone. You're on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. You should know better. But clearly you don't. And quite frankly, as a Democrat, it is just utterly embarrassing that someone of my own party, such as yourself, would spout this kind of stupidity in a public setting. You know, if you have doubts about stuff on your own, that's great. But you know what? To go in front of everyone, belittle them, you're essentially belittling your fellow members of Congress, telling them, oh, they need to come talk to you. No, you need to go do the work. You need to get off of your ass and do something about it, rather than spout this BS that is coming out of AARO. And either you're just utterly clueless, or you know that AARO is a flypaper operation. The leadership of AARO, its purpose is to get Congress to forget about this. Former Director Sean Kirkpatrick, he viewed all of this as a waste. I doubt he viewed it that way inside. He knows what was going on. But their whole job, all of this messaging that you saw Sean Kirkpatrick do, and these debunkers, these bananas debunkers, the whole purpose is to put out this whole communication strategy of convincing other members of Congress that this is a waste of taxpayer money. Congressman Himes, you are doing exactly that. You're either doing it on purpose because you're in the pocket of either a defense contractor or doing it on behest of the CIA, or you're just utterly, absolutely clueless and should not be holding any kind of office in the government of the United States of America. Congressman Himes, people like you are and again, I'm a fellow Democrat, but I don't care if I'm, what party you're on. But if you're out there just spouting this kind of just utter garbage, at the end of the day, if you manage to convince other members of Congress to stop looking into this, you, sir, have jeopardized the national security of the United States of America. That, sir, is a dereliction of your duty. You swore an oath to defend the Constitution. And either, Congressman Himes, you're just utterly, absolutely clueless, arrogant, or ignorant, or possibly a combination of all three. But either way, we don't need people like you in serving our country, because you're not serving our country. You're doing damage to it. I don't know if you just don't have the attention span, or maybe your staffers don't know what's going on, but you need to talk to the people that have dealt with these quote unquote drone incursions. Because let me give you a clue. They're not drones. As Matt Laslo pointed out, countless numbers of drones were shot down over Israel. Countless drones have been shot down over Ukraine, Russian drones. So, Congressman Himes, you mean to tell me that there's nothing going on when you've got so many drones in December, drones circling Langley Air Force Base, that they have to move an entire wing of F-22 fighters out of there? Congressman Himes, are you this ignorant to not ask the question, if an entire fighter wing had to be moved out, either to protect the wing or protect our men and women in uniform, and this goes on for an entire month, so much so that NASA has to put on station an ISR platform, an airborne platform, to collect intelligence on these drones, and you say there's nothing to see here. It just blows me away. You should talk, Congressman Himes, to your senators, to your fellow colleagues. that sit on Senate Armed Services, Senate Intelligence Committee, Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Ask them about the drones that have been, for decades, I say drones, we know they're not drones, that have been interfering with our land-based strategic nuclear deterrent, going back well into the 50s, all the way up through the current platform of the Minuteman III. This has been going on. You should ask about the UAP incursion that happened not too long ago over a Minuteman III missile wing that did some very disturbing things. You need to ask about that. So when you go out in public and you make these public proclamations about little green men and space aliens, or whatever the loaded language is that you prefer to use, doing that kind of stuff, Congressman Himes, that jeopardizes the national security of the United States. And in my opinion, you should not even be in Congress, let alone sitting on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. It's atrocious. I don't know who you paid off to get in there, but it is absolutely insane. You know, looking at your business record, Congressman Himes, clearly you're a very accomplished businessman, which again leads me to believe you cannot be this ignorant. It's unfathomable that you would be so successful in life and business and you managed to get elected and you clearly have no idea what you are talking about. Absolutely not. Congressman Himes, have you stopped to ask yourself how or why David Grusch would go and testify under oath, under the penalty of perjury, to disclose these hidden special access programs in front of Congress? Congressman Himes, have you asked yourself, well, if there's nothing to all of this, why would David Grusch have sat in a skiff with staffers who were the authorized recipients of what he had to say, the classified information? I can tell you David Grusch sat in a skiff for nearly 8 hours prior to his testimony on the Hill. 8 hours in a classified setting, telling exactly what he knew, what the programs were, where they were, what buildings they were in, what has been going on. The 50-ish senior executive service level or SQS folks that have been gatekeeping this thing. That's all on record. There was a court reporter that recorded all of that. And as somebody that sits on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Congressman Himes, you have the ability to view that intelligence product. You can listen to his testimony under oath. People like David Grusch, Lue Elizondo, other whistleblowers that have given everything to this country, that have put God and country before themselves, before their families. You think that they're going to go and testify in front of Congress and in front of the whole damn country and make all of this stuff up? Are you really that ignorant? Maybe you are. I don't know. But all I got to say, Congressman Himes, is you are unfit for this job. If you truly think that AARO, which had no special agent authority whatsoever, none, zilch, look that up. They had no one, Kirkpatrick, AFOSI agents, there were FBI agents on detail for them. None of them operated under special agent authority, meaning they had no legal authority to force open doors. They had no legal authority to subpoena. They had no authority to arrest. They couldn't even carry a damn gun. So, Congressman Himes, you're telling me that you believe former intelligence officials, Sean Kirkpatrick and Tim Phillips, you believe what they say? I don't know if you've looked at what this sort of bullshit tour that former director of AARO, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, went on after he left AARO. But I can tell you, he was doing the bidding of the CIA. Tim Phillips is doing the bidding of ODNI. They're doing what the people up the chain are telling them to do. And they're being good soldiers, and they're lying to you, and they're lying to the American public. But here's the thing, Congressman Himes. You're in that job to work for us. You work for us, not the other way around. You do not work for the Pentagon. You do not work for the intelligence community. You work, sir, for your constituents, for the American people. And I have to sit and question your judgment, Congressman Himes. If you absolutely believe that these folks from the intelligence community are going to tell you about whatever special access program they have, you really, really believe that. I can't imagine that you do. Just as Senator Gillibrand said, and others, they know full well there are SAPs, there are waived SAPs, there are caps that they don't know about. It's designed that way. And I don't know if you need to go back to college or what, Congressman Himes, or go get a master's in national security. But I don't know if you came from Wall Street or wherever you came from, but maybe you need to go back there, because clearly you should not be sitting on an intelligence committee dealing with national security issues that are directly related to the safety of the American people. It is a travesty that people like you, sir, are in office. Because you know darn well that people don't read. You know darn well that people listen to sound bites. You know darn well people just read the headlines. So when you can spout off those kinds of things about there are no aliens here or whatever, either you are so utterly disconnected from reality, or you're just plain incompetent. So if you're buying into this stuff, because it sure sounds like what Tim Phillips at AARO told you, is probably the same thing that told this retired high-ranking military officer, who again, as part of this individual's career, encountered this whole UAP thing. You're either just utterly ignorant or just disconnected from reality, or just plain incompetent. Let's just call a spade a spade. But when you're out talking about trying to downplay this subject, I feel sorry for you. I really do. Maybe you and your staff should take the time to speak to these senators, to speak to their staffers that hold TSSCI clearance, that have seen the intelligence product that shows all of this is real. It's not BS. I don't know, maybe you've been hanging out with Mike Turner, going to fancy dinners with Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. Maybe Congressman Himes, you should have a conversation with the two inspector generals. Ask them about the whistleblower retaliation. Ask about CIA cutouts and security contractors working for folks like Northrop Grumman threatening the lives of people. That's what you should do. You should do your damn job, because you're certainly not doing it. And you're throwing a lot of people under the bus. You could easily say, you know what, I'm not really sure what this is. There seems to be a lot of questions, but if we have drones floating around in our restricted airspace, we need to get to the bottom of it. But Congressman Himes, when you go out there and you start talking about using all these pejoratives of space aliens and tinfoil hats and little green men, you make a mockery not only out of yourself, you make a mockery of the legislative body that you are really lucky to be sitting in. Because essentially your arrogance, your ignorance, your, maybe being bought off, but all it does is it's an insult to your fellow colleagues, both Republican and Democrat. And frankly, it's disgusting. So when people want to know what AARO is up to, you cannot trust AARO. Whistleblowers cannot trust AARO. Former high-ranking military officials that go in for a 40-minute meeting with the head of AARO and an AFOSI agent who ends up being treated to a 2-hour disinformation operation. Members of Congress, and I know that there are a lot of you that watch this, don't believe a damn thing they're telling you because they're lying to you. You cannot trust Tim Phillips. Plain and simple. I'm very aware that those of you in Congress, all you've been receiving from AARO are prosaic reports, balloons, seagulls, whatever. And the reason they're giving you all of those reports is they're wanting to convince you by the volume of what they are giving you that there is nothing going on. But members of Congress and staffers that are watching this show, I can tell you they are sitting on troves of information, classified information with sensor data that exceeds anywhere near the level of intelligence product that we've had on things such as the Tic Tac incidents. They have this stuff. They're sitting on it. They are not giving it to you. They are hiding it. This is the Pentagon. This is the CIA. This is Odie and I giving all of you in Congress the middle finger, because they view all of you that are elected, that we put in that office, as temporary employees that can't be trusted. That's essentially what it is. They don't trust you. And they've decided on their own what is best for all of us because they think we work for them. So when you go into AARO and Tim Phillips gives you this load of horse shit, don't buy it. Because when you do and you act on it, you act on what they're giving you, which is a load of garbage. You dishonor yourself. You dishonor the office that we put you in. Because at the end of the day, you have to do your job. You have to protect all of us. That is why we put you in there. We put you in there to make the right decisions, to legislate, and to have congressional oversight of the executive branch. You should go and ask about SAPs that are classified in the executive branch. It's not only things related to presidential security. It's not only things related to continuity of government. You guys need to dig, and you need to demand answers. So 2 weeks ago, I was off at we'll just say it was a retreat. You saw my photo there with Lue Elizondo and others. I was there for about 5 or 6 days, I think it was. And it was an honor to be there. And what I can tell you, I can't tell you a lot, certain things we couldn't talk about. But what I can tell you is I would say about 80% of the people that were there were from various three-letter agencies in the government that either are currently working on the UAP issue or worked on the UAP issue under a former billet that they were filling. I was having in-depth conversations with people that were colonels, people that had or hold TSSCI clearance, multiple individuals that I think probably out of what the 80% or so that I said were there, I think I knew maybe 2. The rest of these folks were people I had never met, never heard of. Why? Because they're still in the government. So Congressman Himes, what I can share with you is that absolutely every individual that I spoke to that is still working in IC or Pentagon or other areas of the government that are dealing with this, that have seen the classified intelligence product, Congressman Himes, I can tell you that they all are saying there is absolutely zero doubt there is something here that is some kind of non-human intelligence that is interfering with our military operations. Period. The end. And if you're not seriously digging into that, and you're not bringing people in, and you're not holding hearings, bringing in the deputy level folks from the Pentagon and the IC and sticking them under oath and asking them the questions, then you're not doing your job. I can tell you right now, you need to bring in Undersecretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks. And you need to put her under oath. And you need to specifically ask her about UAP reverse engineering SAPs. Any member of Congress or staffer, you need to bring Secretary Hicks in. You need to find out who the current person is in CIA's DS&T who is running the Office of Global Access, which is not called Office of Global Access anymore. It's a new acronym that I'm not at liberty to state. But members of Congress, you need to bring in the person that is the head of OGA, or what its new name is, and you need to put them under oath. And you need to put Undersecretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks under oath. And you need to ask them about what is going on. Because I can tell you, they know what's going on, and they don't want you to know about it. At the end of the day, you're here to protect the national security of the United States. You're here to have congressional oversight of the executive branch. And people like Congressman Jim Himes, if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job. And you have to sit in and ask yourself this question, Congressman Himes. When you've got a Pentagon and an intelligence community that is so utterly dysfunctional, when you've got a group of 50-ish or so senior executive service level members that are stashing all this stuff away out of your oversight, God forbid we get into a war with Russia or China. Because you know what scares me is the level of dysfunction in the Pentagon, the level of dysfunction in the intelligence community. At this retreat in Wyoming, I was speaking to a colonel who said, you know what, Western civilization is in decline because of this. And I have to agree with him. Members of Congress, when you have a Pentagon where the individual commands or whatever are more concerned about fighting for money, where the Air Force is busy battling for money to busy battling to get money taken away from the Navy so that they can have all of their toys. When in the Pentagon you have such dysfunction that literally half of the money that you and Congress allocate to the Pentagon and they can't find it, let alone account for nearly 50% of their physical assets. When all of you in Congress are sending untold billions of dollars in IRAD contracts to defense contractors for them to do whatever they want to do with it and not tell you about it, it is no wonder that we have this ballooning deficit. It's no wonder that we have this dysfunction in the Pentagon. When our Department of Defense is more worried about political infighting and fighting for money rather than worrying about China or worrying about Russia or worrying about UAP, that is an absolute recipe for disaster for this country. It's maddening. When Eisenhower, I think it was, said, beware the military-industrial complex, one political consultant told me there are two things members of Congress are most afraid of. Number one, their constituents. Number two, the military-industrial complex. That's historically been the two things that members of Congress are most concerned about. So all of you in Congress that are watching this and the staffers, now is the time where you can change that, where you can say enough is enough, where Congressman Himes can hopefully do the right thing and say, you know what, these guys are lying to me and it's wrong and it's unconstitutional and I'm going to stand up for my constituents, for the men and women of this country. That's a choice you guys can make. Only you can do that. You can either let all this go and worry about your reelection and having fancy dinners with Northrop Grumman, or you can do your job and stand up for all of us. What is it, 64% of Americans that think that the government is hiding all of this. We're no dummies. We are not dumb. We are not ignorant. But when people like you, Congressman Himes, get up and spout that kind of garbage, it is no wonder the people of the United States no longer have faith in our government. Because you, sir, are the poster child of incompetence, of arrogance, of utter ignorance. It's as if you think we are all stupid enough to believe what you're saying. You need to do the work. You need to ask the questions. You need to bring people in. These whistleblowers, sit down with them in a skiff and let them share with you what they know. Because if you're not doing it and your whole thing is to sit and convince your fellow members of Congress that there's nothing to see here, frankly, I don't know how you even look at yourself in the mirror. Because I just can't believe you're that ignorant and that arrogant. And for the voters that put Congressman Himes in office, you guys deserve better than this. You deserve better than to have Democratic Congressman Jim Himes talk to you like you're a child. Maybe he's done some good things for this country. I don't know, but this is just the epitome of Washington dysfunction. It is the epitome of ignorance. It is the epitome of arrogance. It is the epitome of everything that is wrong with this country. So Jim Himes, do your job. Do your job. Either do your job or get the hell out.